I found out my husband had a second family on a Tuesday afternoon while looking for batteries in his desk drawer. There, buried under old receipts and broken pens, was a school photo of a little girl with his eyes. She couldn't have been more than 7, gap-toothed smile beaming at the camera. Written on the back in his handwriting, Emma's first grade picture, "Love you, Daddy." My hands started shaking. We'd been married for 12 years. We didn't have any children. I sat there staring at this photo for what felt like hours. My mind racing through every business trip, every late night at the office, every weekend he'd claimed to be visiting his sick mother. The pieces were falling into place, and the picture they formed made me sick. I heard his key in the front door and quickly shoved the photo back where I found it. When he walked into the kitchen, I was standing at the sink, gripping the edge so hard my knuckles were white. "Hey babe, how was your day?" he asked, kissing my cheek like he had done thousands of times before. "How was your day?" he asked. I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled and said it was fine. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that little girl's face, wondering who her mother was, where they lived, how long this had been going on. Part of me wanted to confront him immediately, but something held me back. Maybe I needed proof. Maybe I wasn't ready for my entire world to collapse. The next morning, after he left for work, I went back to his desk. This time, I searched more carefully. Hidden in a folder labeled insurance documents, I found bank statements for an account I'd never seen before, monthly transfers of $3,000, a mortgage payment to an address across town. My chest felt tight. I could barely breathe. I drove to that address with trembling hands on the steering wheel. It was a small ranch house in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where families plant gardens and kids ride bikes in the driveway. There was a swing set in the backyard. I sat in my car across the street for 2 hours, not knowing what I was hoping to see. Then a woman came out the front door. She was beautiful, younger than me, with long dark hair. She was carrying a diaper bag and holding the hand of the little girl from the photo. But that wasn't all. She was also visibly pregnant. I watched them get into a minivan and drive away, and I knew I was looking at my husband's real family, the family he'd chosen, the life he actually wanted. I drove home in a daze, my mind completely blank. It wasn't until I was sitting in my own driveway that the rage hit me. 13 years of my life. 13 years of believing in us, planning our future, trying to get pregnant, mourning our miscarriages together, all while he was living a completely different life with someone else. When he came home that evening, I was waiting for him with the photo and the bank statements spread across the kitchen table. His face went completely white. For a moment, neither of us said anything. "I can explain," he finally whispered. "Explain what?" "That you have a wife and daughter I never knew about? That she's pregnant with your second child? That every day for years you've been lying to my face?" He sat down heavily in the chair across from me, running his hands through his hair. "It's not. It's complicated, Sarah." "Complicated?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What's complicated about having 2 families?" That's when he told me something that changed everything. He told me that legally, I wasn't his wife at all. His real wife was Jessica, the woman I'd seen. They'd been married for 8 years. The ceremony we'd had, the one I thought made us husband and wife, had been fake. He'd hired actors to play the officiant and witnesses. Our marriage certificate was a forgery. I felt like the ground had disappeared beneath me. Everything I thought I knew about my life was a lie. Why was all I could manage to say. He explained that he'd met me during a rough patch in his marriage. He'd fallen in love with both of us and couldn't choose. So he'd decided to keep us both, telling each of us elaborate lies about work, travel, and family obligations. He'd been living this double life for over a decade. The worst part was that he seemed to genuinely believe he was protecting both of us by keeping us separate. In his twisted logic, we were both getting the best version of him. I asked him if Jessica knew about me. He shook his head. She thought his business required constant travel. I spent the next 3 days in a hotel, trying to process everything. I felt angry, betrayed, humiliated, but also strangely empty. Who was I if everything I'd built my identity around was fake? Then I realized something. Jessica deserved to know the truth too. She was raising his child and carrying another, Believing she had a faithful husband who traveled for work, she had a right to make informed decisions about her life. So I called her. Meeting Jessica was surreal. We sat in a coffee shop, two women who'd unknowingly shared the same man for years. She was 8 months pregnant and devastated, but she was also kind and intelligent. We compared notes, filling in the gaps of each other's stories. That's when we discovered something that shocked us both. He'd been planning to leave her after the baby was born. He'd been putting money aside in yet another secret account, apparently preparing to start fresh with me. But he'd also been telling me he wanted us to move to another state for a new adventure. We realized he was planning to abandon both of us and disappear with the money he'd been siphoning from his various accounts over the years. Jessica and I made a decision that surprised us both. We decided to work together. By the time he came home to his house with Jessica 3 days later, we were both waiting for him. We'd contacted lawyers, frozen the accounts we could access, and gathered evidence of his fraud. The look on his face when he saw us sitting together on his couch was something I'll never forget. We didn't destroy each other like he'd probably expected. Instead, we supported each other through the legal mess that followed. Jessica kept her house and got proper child support. I got some financial compensation for the fraud, though no amount of money could really address what he'd taken from me. The strangest part is that Jessica and I became friends. Real friends. We help each other with childcare now. She had a beautiful baby boy, and we've both started dating again. Sometimes I think we understand each other better than anyone else could. My fake husband was sentenced to fraud and bigamy charges. I heard he's getting out next year, but honestly, I rarely think about him anymore. I learned that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can also set you free. I thought I'd lost everything, but what I'd actually lost was a lie. And Jessica and I both gained something real: friendship, truth, and the chance to build authentic lives. We joke sometimes that he gave us the greatest gift of all: each other.